One thing that you're often asked to do as a first-year writing student is to argue a point, to develop a thesis and make an argument in a paper or an essay. And it's great if you have a buddy that you can banter back and forth and they can play devil's advocate for you, and you can explore both sides of your topic through having a conversation with somebody else. And it's wonderful when that can happen in class, but sometimes maybe you're taking an online class and you're pretty much going it alone. You can use ChatGPT as a conversation partner as you do your research and as you try to come up with a persuasive argument. Let me give you an example of how this can look. I'm going to paste this prompt here. So I am a college freshman taking a composition course. I'm writing an argument essay about book banning. I want to understand the argument from both sides. Assume the role of a person who is in favor of banning books that make mention of gender or sexuality in children's libraries. And I'm going to start by asking it, do you understand? So that I can make sure that the prompt is clear. Now, I'm going to let this generate, and then I want to go back and show you something important at the beginning of this response. All right. So in the beginning of the response, ChatGPT says, certainly I can help you explore the perspective of someone who supports banning books that mention gender or sexuality in children's libraries. Keep in mind that my role is to provide information and present arguments, not to endorse or promote any particular viewpoint. And then it goes on to describe the kind of arguments that you might hear from someone on the other side of the issue. And it's going to break these down pretty nicely, protecting children from inappropriate content. And they'll give you the reasoning from the perspective of people on that side of the issue. Maintaining community standards. And again, this is why some people are in favor of banning books. Parental rights and involvement, preserving innocence and age-appropriate education, preventing controversy and dispute. So how is this useful? Well, you may be a student who is absolutely opposed to banning books, and you feel so strongly against it that it's really, really hard for you to understand how anybody could possibly argue in favor of it. So what ChatGPT can do for you is help you understand what is the thinking on the other side of the issue. This can help you in your research because it can kind of burst those filter bubbles that we tend to get ourselves into when we're searching from one particular point of view. And so we're not always being exposed to that other side. So this can really, really be helpful to you in that way. I'm going to continue the conversation with another prompt. I'm going to say, pretend you're an 18 to 20-year-old college freshman who is in favor of restricting access to books about gender in elementary school. So this is, again, flipping the issue. How would you respond to this statement? If children grow up with exposure to a spectrum of gender identities, they will less likely to grow up to be intolerant or hateful toward the LGBTQ community. Okay, what you're doing here is you're testing your viewpoint to see what counter-arguments might be raised against it. So if your viewpoint is that if children grow up with this exposure, they're going to grow up to be less intolerant and less hateful, and you want to hear, well, what would the other person answer back to that argument that I'm going to make? And so again, it's going to say from the perspective of someone in favor of restricting access, and it's going to assume that role. And it's going to say, you'll see it's in quotation marks. It says, I'm going to assume this role. I might respond as follows. Well, I get that, exposing kids to a variety of perspectives, etc. So do you see how you can use this to have a conversation where you test your arguments? You might think, I've got a great argument, and it's just buttoned up tight. There's no answer to my point. Nobody's going to be able to come back at me with an argument that refutes what I'm saying. Well, test it out. Ask ChatGPT to assume the role of someone on the other side of the issue and to answer back to show you what kind of counter argument might be made against the point that you're making. What's great about this is it allows you to create a much more nuanced, sophisticated defense for your thesis statement. And it's just a very, very excellent tool for this particular purpose. And again, as I said, if you're not working in a classroom where you have other classmates that you can argue and play devil's advocate for each other, you can use this tool to assume that role for you, to deepen your research and enrich the writing that you are doing.